Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Mark Fisher states that we're seeing this, sort of cultural stagnation as a result of capitalism, actually. And
by the way, sorry to
about this sort of planned obsolescence and concepts like that. But
sorry to interrupt a little bit, but when you use the word materialism, like, do you refer to metaphysical materialism or like socio, geopolitical?
Cultural. That's what I was aiming for. It's consumerism. Another word for it.
Oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they're actually somewhat related, and that's why I think that's why I think Platonism comes in, because
I think we could actually jump in.
Yeah, and the materialist and materialism and the metaphysical usage, as I understand, basically suggests that the only thing that really exists is the material world, these material physical objects. And as a logical extension of that line of thought, it's kind of the only thing that really matters. But I think the problem with that, in Platonism, I actually see Platonism as sort of and I wonder what you guys think of this. I see it as basically I see Platonist metaphysics as
the opposite.
I see third positionist political ideology as basically a political mirror of Platonist metaphysics, right? Because what Platonism suggests, and FlyingCabala, you can definitely expand on this, is that, okay, there's basically this realm that exists beyond not only the material world, what we see around us, but also beyond our internal world, right, our inner thoughts. And it's this world where, in philosophy, we'd call them transcendentals. It's where these transcendentals and sort of abstract conceptions exist, right? Ideas like love, symmetry, aesthetics, form, right? Telos, which in philosophy is just purpose. And I think Dugin, because we mentioned Dugin, he actually comes to a similar conclusion in his book Political Platonism, where he says that he founded a National Bolshevik Party in Russia with Edward Lemonov, probably one of the most well-known third positionist or Nazgul parties. And he says that Plato is actually a huge influence on the ideology of that party, because like third position, when you look into this third realm, what that suggests is that, there is this sort of higher purpose that kind of transcends the material world, right? And in third positionist politics, you come to a similar conclusion, because think about what third positions kind of strive for. It's not, let's maximize our GDP or our economic productivity or things like that. It's no, we need loyalty to some more abstract transcendental quality, things like the nation, right? Our people, our ethnicity. I mean, sometimes third positionism is actually it can be a multi-ethnic unit. We see that with the Syrian Social Nationalist Party in the Levant. I would classify them as a third positionist party, but adherence or devotion to some greater ideal, which I think is kind of similar to Platonist metaphysics, right? Because in the modern worldview, Dugin says that the West moving away from Platonist metaphysics was kind of one of the greatest tragedies pretty much in history, because now what we're left with is, I think if you take the materialist worldview to its logical conclusion, and this is kind of the foundation of most people's worldviews nowadays, whether or not they sort of even realize that, then you're left with this very hedonistic kind of libertarian approach to life, where, okay, well, if all that's real is the material world, and these transcendental or abstract conceptions don't really matter, or they don't have any grounding in empiricism, so therefore they're invalid, then what should I do? Well, I should maximize my pleasure in this material world, right? And so that leaves us with this very hedonistic approach. I call it neo-Epicureanism, because it's like the thought of Epicurus, but just amplified to an extreme level beyond what I think even he would have agreed with. And so, in the modern worldview, because of this, we're left with this, most people are left with this teleological worldview. No, there's no sense of a higher purpose. They just maximize their pleasure. And that's why we have these phenomenons like, Coomers and soy boys and all these, this sort of meme lingo, these people that just live these pathetic, kind of degenerate lifestyles. I know that was a very kind of rambly monologue there, but FlyingCabala, I think you want to expand on this.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely. So it's like Plato and certainly his followers that modern scholarship labels as the Neoplatonists. emphasizes in his works the immaterial. So Platonists actually assume that what is becoming not only is like naturally inferior to being, but is less real than being. Well, because being is, but then becoming becomes. So in other words, like they discuss the so to speak realm of the forms, which later Neoplatonist thinkers would label as nous. And nous in ancient Greek means, I guess it's a very controversial term because modern scholars kind of, or I guess a lot of Neoplatonists don't really like to translate it because translating it into English kind of removes a lot of nuance from it. But usually it's translated as intellect because it's kind of the divine intellect that holds, like so to speak, the forms that are outside of space, outside of matter, outside of time. And ultimately, I think that's pretty much the basis of Neoplatonic metaphysics, or just Platonist metaphysics, is that there's the world or realm of being that it is like naturally outside of becoming, in which like there's no becoming, and like if one is able to ultimately contemplate that world, one would attain ultimate bliss. So I mean, I always like to say that Plato has an esoteric dimension that like modern scholarship almost never.
Yeah, that's true. Especially the sort of the narrative that you get about Plato in mainstream education. I mean, if you take a philosophy class or a world history class in high school, they might touch on Plato, but it's never really any. They're not going to touch what we just talked about. They never really go beyond things like allegory of the cave or
maybe
the
allegory of the cave is a very good example because
maybe
it begins with